By and by, when the morning comes and all the saints of God are gathered home, we'll tell the story of how we overcome, and we'll understand it better by and by. Good day, prayer warriors. I hope that you have been having a wonderful week thus far, that your week started out right, your mindset was right, and that you have your intentions set and having a glorious and at ease work while you do you and work on the growth of your personal self. Now, this week coming up, I'm going to be planning our the beginning of our regular meetings every Friday at 5 p.m. through the One Universe movement. Our biggest discussions, we're starting out with a real tough talk on the infiltration of the psychology of the Willie Lynch letters in our lives today, in our religious sectors, in our belief. It's integrated so deeply in our lives that many of us don't even recognize it. We have, for example, sister Jenna, who does the Mended by the Maker. We thank you very much, by the way, for sharing with us. Her trauma and the traumas that you and I have experienced is not just, based on where our parents were at or what they understood life to be at the time that they went through it, or we went through it with them or were affected by it. A lot of the things that we endure, that we experience in our lives today, it stems on the psychology of this guy. And when you listen to some of it, he said that it would last for like 300, maybe 1,000 years. But I can guarantee you, because of our lack or inability to embrace change and understand the truth of the love that God had intended for mankind, we missed the beat, and so we continue to infiltrate a lot of these practices and beliefs in our lives, the way that we look at each other, the way that we look at the very children that we have, right? Some of us have children that, even if they're of the same parentage, they might be darker or lighter, or have a straighter nose, or so-called prettier hair. And we think that it's okay to compare one child to the other, or to their friends. Even if we don't do it inside the house, we do it to their friends and such. And these things create a certain amount of traumatic experience for the person who's on the receiving end, right? Because it might not be a child, it could be an adult. And so we want to say that, oh, my pastor doesn't this and my so and so doesn't that, and we make excuses, and it is time for us to stop making excuses and face the ugly truth, so that we can replace those ugly truths by transforming into truth and love and light, right? Shine some light on the ugly and turn it into what it should be. In our society today, we say that negativity is stronger than positivity. That's pretty much saying that hate is stronger than love. But is it? Is that what God taught us? Is that what God really placed in you? Right? Some folks at one point had asked me if I think that demons or Satan worshippers love, and love means a lot of things for everybody, right? So in our society, everybody claims love. And when you listen to each other with a spiritual ear, you step outside of your regular mundane self and step into your spiritual self, and you truly listen and you hear the verbiage that we give to each other for love, we're not showing up. Believers are like no different from a non-believer or from a devil worshiper when it comes to love. If you think I'm not telling you the truth, or that I've tainted things, take a look at the congregation you belong to. When was the last time you picked up the phone and called someone from the congregation that you belong to and shared something loving with that person? Not to call them to complain, but to share love. I'm not talking about reading scripture to that person either. No. Right? You see, we miss the beat every time, and I keep coming back to it all the time when I read the scriptures, and I sort of picture Christ saying to me, behold, I have placed inside you all the powers of heaven and of earth. I've placed them inside you. Know ye not that your body is a temple of the living God? Those words for me, they do something deep inside my core that rings out to the rest of my subconscious, right? So sometimes I'll walk around my house, my apartment, as if though my head is stuck in the clouds. My kids might walk up behind me, and I know that it's only 3 of us up in here, and I know exactly where they're supposed to be, but I'll scream as if though, strangers just stepped into my house or something, because I am literally not here. I'm very much so caught up in having some serious spiritual discussions that I can't necessarily have with a lot of other people, right? Or, my children are not always available for certain conversations, right? So what I'm saying is that we need to be ready to have these conversations. We need to be ready to work on ourselves and to assist each other in a way that growth can truly happen. That maturity, that stepping into what scriptures call perfection, right? It's not a matter of not making mistakes. No. And I've heard too many of us claim that that's what it is. Okay? Without the mistakes, how do you know that you're growing? Right? So when we make mistakes, it's a part of who we are, right? One of the things I love Africans for is the stories of our ancestral way of worship and believing and thinking, and that is good and evil have always been there, just as much as God has always been there. So we need to be able to understand that the right and wrong that we get stuck up and caught up with, it's not the message in helping us grow, but the lesson within the mistakes that will help us to develop or evolve into the creatures that we're called to be. And I'm going on and not reading this, so I will go into this. The introduction. Willie Lynch, the Willie Lynch letter and making of a slave. I'm just reading one paragraph. The infamous Willie Lynch letter gives both African and Caucasian students and teachers some insight concerning the brutal and inhumane psychology behind the African slave trade. The materialistic viewpoint of Southern plantation owners that slavery was a business and the victims and chattel slavery were merely pawns in an economic game of debauchery, crossbreeding, interracial rape, and mental conditioning of the Negroid race. They considered subhuman. Now, today, when you look at how how far society has come, you recognize that the psychology was not just on Negroid slaves. It is now infiltrated so much in society. It's in our schools, it's in our churches. You hear it from the pulpit, you hear it when we speak to each other, when we look at each other. He said it was, when we get on further along, you'll find that he said it will be for about 300 to 1,000 years. It will go a lot longer unless we as believers take a good look, a very close look at the psychology that this man used, right, to create the destruction that he created, that his letters helped to create, and fix that within our systems of belief and how we show up for ourselves and for each other. God bless and keep until next time.